I want to talk about pigs. Over the years, I've heard a lot of things that are weird about pigs and humans. Uh, in terms of the world's major religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism agree that you can't eat pork. It's unclean. In the New Testament, Jesus is casting out demons, and the demons say, please, cast us into the pigs. Did you ever hear anything about animals being possessed by demons? Well, it's in the Bible where Jesus cast demons into pigs because that's where they asked to go. And then the pigs go into the water and they drown. Crematoriums. People who cremate bodies hate the smell of bacon because it reminds them of work, because burning human bodies smell like bacon. So if you know a guy that has a crematorium and you're cooking bacon and he likes the smell of it, maybe you don't want to hang out with him. He's like, oh, that reminds me of money. Or it's not good. Skin grafts and organ transplants. Pigs are commonly used because they work. If you take a stand a human next to a pig and you put the pig up on two legs, the organs in a human and a pig will be in all the same places, and that probably has something to do with the simpatico of sometimes organ transplants and skin grafts working. If you have a pig that's domesticated, if that pig escapes and rewilds, it quickly grows back hair and tusks. So the pigs that we think of that people eat when they eat pork and stuff, it's a pink pig and it doesn't have like dark hair or tusks. But as soon as they get out, that's what happens to them. They rewild pretty quickly. If you look at the way a pig's hoof is, it's distinct from other four-footed animals with hooves. You can take like a side angle. Let me pick a good angle. You can take like a pig's hoof and put it in this position next to a human hand, and they look eerily similar. If you look at a human eye and a pig's eye, you can tell the difference. That's a pig's eye, that's a human's eye. But there's no other animal that has an eye that's so close, besides like primates or whatever. But even a pig's eye looks more like a human eye than a gorilla's eye or an orangutan's eye. That's strange. I've seen doctors on like big, I don't know what you want to call it, like world forums or whatever, where they're talking about why we shouldn't eat pork, and they're bringing up some of the things that I told you about organ transplants and skin grafts. So what is it that the world's major religions have against eating pork that's kind of undefined? They say that it's unclean, but what does that mean? So what I'm supposing and purporting here, and the reason that I no longer eat bacon, even though yes, I did like the way that it smelled, you can get beef bacon from cows, is that there's some kind of something about pigs that has something to do with us, and I don't know what it is, but it makes me think of stories where humans were turned into pigs. Did you ever see the movie Willow? I mean, this is just a, an aside or an anecdote or whatever you want to call it, whatever it is. But in the movie Willow, the witch turns the army that's fighting against her into pigs. And it makes me, using that as a jumping off point, it makes me think that if there's probably, I haven't heard this, but maybe in some places in the world there's a story of how humans were turned into pigs as a punishment or something. Or, I don't know. It's just, it's a weird thing with the humans and the pigs. Do you have any more weird things about pigs? Add them in the comments, and since this is a short video, maybe I'll make it again. But what do you think about that? They work for organ transplants. Why? Don't you think that monkey organs would... There's a movie called The Baboon Heart or whatever. I mean, Dick Cheney doesn't even have a heart. He has a pump for blood. He doesn't even have like a pig's heart. But it does work for skin grafts and organ transplants. And again, to reiterate, if you stand a pig up on two legs, the organs are in the same places that they would be in a human, and they're the same organs, and you can transplant them. Doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. Why? Skin grafts? You can take a pig's skin and graft it onto a human, and sometimes it takes. Why? Why are humans and pigs so compatible, along with everything else I offered to you? You know, you can burn all kinds of things to eat, but bacon smells very specific. Why do humans and pigs smell like the same things when their fatty tissues are burning, which that has to do with the smell, right? It's because of the burning of the fats. So anyway, all I know is I don't want to eat bacon anymore. Turkey bacon doesn't taste like bacon. That's maybe you want to have turkey bacon from your local butcher shop. Maybe you want to have beef bacon, which is delicious, and just avoid pork altogether because God said no. And again, to reiterate, when's the last time you heard of animals being possessed by demons? But the demons wanted to be cast into the swine, and then the swine drown themselves. Or did God command the pigs to drown themselves? Or did they of their own accord rather be dead, or just obey God just to get rid of the demons? Because the demons asked to be cast into the pigs. That's weird. Why? There's no other stories in the Bible of demons being cast into animals. There is the story where the guy's talking to a donkey, but that was God's interference making the donkey, or was it donkey or jackass or whatever, be able, remember it was the sorcerer guy, what's his name, it's something with an A, I can't remember his name, but there was a sorcerer guy and God was trying to get through to him, so he made the jackass talk to the guy and say, hey, you better do what God's telling you to do, because he's beating his ass. And then the donkey talks, so the animal speaks to him, and God did that, not demons. So I don't know. I mean, maybe goats get possessed or something, because there'll be sheep and there'll be goats. But the only instance that I'm aware of from the Bible, which is the New Testament, is that those demons ask to be cast into the pigs. Is that like the next closest thing to a human? I'm just making, I'm suggesting that maybe there's something to that, but I'm not making a statement. I'm saying, what do you think about that? So anyway, pigs are weird, and I don't want to eat bacon anymore. It's my favorite pizza topping, but I don't have to have it. And I just want to talk about how weird that is, all the stuff with the pigs. Go look up the videos where there's I remember it was it was a doctor with a Russian accent, and she's speaking to like a world forum of doctors, and she's saying, look, there's a lot of weird stuff and reasons why we shouldn't eat pigs. And I don't. So, yeah, and those other two religions, like the Judaism, is they gave up on God. They don't believe who God is, and the Islam is just like a copycat. What did they say to do? Pray 3 times a day? Well, we're going to pray 5,000 times a day. And then they're like, Muhammad, nobody can pray 5,000 times a day. We won't get anything done. And he's like, okay, then 5 times a day. So you see what I mean? Like all those 3 religions, which I guess are all Abrahamic religions, Abrahamic, whatever you want to believe, religions. And so they have the same belief about pork. And now, just another weird thing about pigs to tack on to the end of this, that is more recent news, is that the Italians and the French women are getting security pigs because Muslim guys are not allowed to be near pork or whatever. So instead of pit bulls like they have in America, they have pigs because the Muslim guys can't have pork. It's sad though. I mean, I'm laughing about it, but that's a horrible thing. That's the state of things. So anyway, yeah, weird stuff about pigs I don't know that I need say anymore. And I've stated and restated some of these things, so that's enough. And yeah, so maybe don't eat bacon or pork chops. I never really liked pork chops or any stuff anyway. I'm like, guys, doesn't really taste good. But I know a lot of people like bacon. And even to add to this, to the weirdness, is they were propagandizing bacon. Remember, this was like a hipster trend where they were like, everything's better with bacon. And then they would put bacon in all kinds of stupid stuff. Like, here's ice cream with bacon, and here's everything with bacon. And I forget what some of the catchphrases were, but there was like 3 or 4 of these things where they were like, it's got to have bacon, or drawing special attention to bacon over the last 10, 20 years. That everything's better with bacon, I think, was one of them. Yeah, and those 3 major religions don't eat it. But of course, you know, I think the Kabbalists, like, they drink human blood, so what difference does it make if they eat bacon? They probably do eat it. So I'm going to go now. Something weird about pigs. Do you have anything to add to this? Leave it in the comments, and as I said before, maybe I'll make another video, because I'm like, oh, I have more stuff on bacon. But that's enough for now. Just off the top of my head, things that are weird about pigs and humans. And so anyway, pray to God and don't eat bacon. Amen. I'm back. There's more about pigs that's significant. Do you remember in 2020 when Joe Rogan was talking about ivermectin? And now if you watch a Christian-themed podcast or conspiratorial podcast, one of the common sponsors is Parasite cleanses. That's not just residue from 2020. Biblically, pork was considered unclean. A lot of people thought because of parasites. So don't eat pork because pigs will eat anything, even dead hookers. There was a famous case in Canada that you can look up where there was a guy who owned a meat company, and he'd have prostitutes, and then he'd kill them, and then he'd throw them in for the pigs to eat, and then the pigs would get butchered, and then you were eating human flesh once removed, because, you know, you are what you eat. So the pigs are made out of dead Canadian hookers. And this guy went to court over into double digits of times where they said, this guy killed a hooker, she's missing, she was with him, she's gone. And the judge let him go, like in double digits of times. You can look up the numbers on this. I don't remember anymore, but I'm sure that that's a kind of, you know, it's like podcast fodder to talk about the Canadian meat, a lunch meat company that had dead whores in it, which is disgusting. But when you go to the Bible and the demons ask to be cast into the pigs, it may have something to do with parasites. Because there are those who believe, and some of them are Christian podcasts or conspiratorial podcasts, where their working theory is that, one, either parasites or demons, because if you look at them under a microscope, they're ugly and they have sharp teeth and they look pretty nasty, or that it's something that can be used by demons to manipulate a person's body, to weaken them. And I used to work in a holistic healing center, and they would stick a hose up people's bums and they would pull out parasites. And I've seen some pretty crazy stuff, like tapeworms that look like shoelaces, or whatever kind of worms they were. There's so many different kinds of parasites a person could have. And they would go in and they jag them in the butt with a hose and put warm water up there. And then as the water's pulling out, and you can see videos of this on YouTube, because you're not, like I have, where you're not seeing anything, you're not seeing anybody. The person's laying on a table, but you can't tell they have a hose up their butt. And you can see a little window where the water's being flushed into their bodies. That's warm water. And then as they pull it out, you can see the worms that look like shoelaces, and they fight against the current. They know they're being sucked out of where they lived. So as the current's pulling them out, they're trying to swim against the current to get back up inside the person's body. And also one of the things was that people would talk about their stools, and they would say, yeah, it looks like there's all kinds of pepper and like little flecks of pepper when they go to the bathroom and they look in the toilet. And they're like, yeah, that's the parasites still in there laying eggs, because they know that they're coming out, because the person was going for multiple treatments of colon hydrotherapy, where they flush warm water up your butt and they pull the parasites out. And then those people would take parasite cleanse. This is a long time ago, so the cleansing from parasites, nothing new. I had a parasite zapper. It was called the Hulda Clark Zapper, and it was a little Radio Shack homemade device where you attach it to your body, and it put out like a frequency or a shock, whatever the parasites didn't like. And then it was supposed to make them die off and come out of your body and stuff. And they say that most people have parasites in their bodies and they don't know it. And when you think of like parasites in a person's body, maybe you think of some poor guy from India where the living conditions are awful and there's so many people living on top of each other, so it's a skinny Indian guy and he's got tapeworms. Well, no, you can be a big fatso from anywhere in the world and have lots of parasites. It just means that there's more things for them to feed on. And if you look up, like they had a show called Dr. Pimple Popper. They could do a show called Dr. Worm or something like that, where it's just every week, you find somebody that their specialty is dealing with parasites. If that show doesn't already exist already. But if there is some kind of manipulation by demons of parasites, then probably that would discourage them ever making a show about it, because the people in charge want to hide the evil that they do. And what better way to hide evil than up inside your asshole? Maybe the demons in the Bible wanted to go into the pigs because they know that the pigs had parasites, and that pagans would eat the pigs because that's what they were herd of pigs for, to eat them for the people that ate pigs, so they could maybe transfer as demons if demons are parasites, or if demons can manipulate parasites, which is what some of the Christian podcast channels believe. And if you're watching my channel, then you've probably seen another channel that you like where they just openly sponsor parasite cleanse stuff. And Joe Rogan's like the #1 podcast guy, right? And he talked about his ivermectin story, and that's a thing that kills parasites in animals. So, there is a lot of kill parasite stuff on the kind of podcasts that are not unlike my own, who do better at it and make money and get sponsored. So I just wanted to throw that in there because, I was like, yeah, that's kind of biblical. Maybe the reason, once more to reiterate, maybe the reason the demons wanted to go in there is because they could manipulate people through parasites, or they are parasites. So I don't know for sure, but I was like, I have to come back and tack this on to the end of the episode. So cool, a bonus thing. You thought the episode was over because I said call God? Well, now I'm going to say it again. It's Planet Daddy issue down here. We have access to the most advanced technology on the planet, and that's a direct line to the creator and maker of all things. So maybe you want to pray to God and call your Father who art in heaven, and amen to that. And don't eat pork. Amen. There's more. I have one more thing. It's less about pigs and more about parasites. Have you ever heard this? Because I've seen videos of this too. I've seen it in documentaries off of just regular television when all they had was cable TV and there was no internet. Is that guys in India, and the Indians are Hindus, so they worship a pantheon of demons. And if you look at the Hindu gods, they look like demons. So they worship demons. That's a known thing. Like when you do yoga, you're getting into the postures of their demons that they worship, so that the spirit of the yoga pose, which is the spirit of the demon, would inhabit you. It's not unlike voodoo. Okay? Look at how people go crazy from toxoplasmosis. That's some kind of a parasite, isn't it? A T. gondii plasmosis or whatever it is. That's it makes the crazy cat lady, they say now, is based upon this particular parasite of cats. And when mice eat the cat drop, they eat cat shit, they're not afraid of cats anymore, and they behave strangely, and then the cats catch them and kill them. So it makes them crazy. Like, what's the mortal enemies of mice is cats, right? Because the cats can get them. You don't have to feed your cat. You can just starve them and make them get the mice if you live like that. I'm just joking. But so we know about toxoplasmosis, and that's probably the reason for the crazy cat lady. But back to India. In India, these guys knowingly, it's part of like Hindu religion or Sikhism, not Sikhism, sorry. It's let's say part of Hinduism is that some guys that are aesthetics will take in tapeworms on purpose which is a parasite, and it has some kind of religious significance. Forgive me for not remembering the religious significance of willfully taking on a tapeworm for aestheticism, but you're literally willfully, as a Hindu, taking on a parasite on purpose. You want to know why if you go to Spice of India, everything's spicy? Because if you live in a place where there's lots of parasites, one of the things that the parasites don't like is spicy and hot things. It irritates them. So parasites don't like curry. And I remember having a date. We went to Spice of India, and she got stomach ache because no matter what she ordered, it was all spicy. She's like, guys, have something that's not spicy? And they're like, well, you can have a coconut soup that's like less spicy. And then she got stomach ache, and I banged her anyway. So it all works out in the end. And and grieved God. But anyway, Spice of India is like a fast food chain, Indian style restaurant. Maybe it's a little nicer than McDonald's. But think of everything's spicy because India and because parasites. That's why. And in Mexico, the little kids will eat spicy stuff like it's nothing because, again, of climate. There's lots of parasites. So you think about the two cultures in the world that have the spicy foods, all right? You think spicy Mexican food, which everybody loves, and Indian food, which is, if you don't know about it, it's very spicy. And then then there's wasabi from Japan, but that's just like that's not where everybody's mind goes. So places where there's lots of parasites and it's a known thing, and it's just part of their culture or whatever, the environment, the climate, they eat spicy foods because it irritates parasites. And curry is one of the things. Like why did they put curry on everything? Because it doesn't add anything good. It tastes like shit, but it's because everything's spicy, so it's become a staple for them. And people are like, I like curry. It smells like BO. It smells like body odor. Curry sucks, but it kills parasites. They don't like it. And I guess that's all, unless I think about something else. As soon as I shut off the camera, I'm going to come right back so I wanted to get all the pig stuff, which now, as it turns out, is also like parasite stuff, because pigs and parasites go together. Don't eat bear meat. They have parasites too, because these are animals that eat other things. The list of unclean animals from the Bible that's used, still by the Jewish people and still by the Muslims, are animals that are scavengers and or predators, and all the grass-eating animals are the ones you can eat, and all the bottom-feeding fish, you're not supposed to eat them, but regular fish, you can eat them. Jesus with the loaves and the fishes. So all the lists of foods from the Old Testament that the Jews and the Muslims, as well as the Christians, use are don't eat predatory animals, because and the justification was, well, why can't you have them? Well, it's probably because they have parasites. That's what people believe. That's the if they don't believe in God or whatever, and they're like, well, even in those religions, they were like, well, let's tell people not to eat predators because they'll have parasites. Predators and scavengers. Like any animal that eats carrion or rotten meat or whatever, maybe you don't want to. You might have parasites in them. But we eat rotten meat, right? Like aged beef, and then you got to cook it. And, you can eat meat and there's no parasites in it, but the eggs might be in it. So, parasite this and parasite that. Maybe it's something manipulable by demons, and it has something to do with why those demons wanted to be cast into swine specifically, so that they could, start all over again and branch out by getting into people one way or the other, by people eating the pork, by the godless pagan heathens that were brought into the fold by Jesus because the Jews rejected him. And makes me think of the Good Samaritan and the Roman centurion that impressed God, and he's like, I'm opening myself up to the Gentiles now because you guys are going to crucify me, and he knew that. So that's the new covenant, the final covenant. Hey, we're included. Cool. God let us in too. It's not just about those his chosen people, because ultimately they crucified him. So don't eat pork, and call God. Now here, I'll do it again. I'm going to do it again. Call your Father. You can't hear that enough. Your Father who art in heaven. Amen to that.